ScriptBlueprint presents The Good Liar. The year is 2009. We are in London and see an old man who goes to meet a lady through a dating site. They talk. The lady tells him that her husband and son have passed away, but her grandson lives with her. She used to be a professor at Oxford University. The old man also tells her about himself. He has a son, but the son no longer lives with him. In the middle of their conversation, he reveals that the name he told her is not his real name. His real name is Roy. Hearing this, the lady says she also did not tell him her real name. Her real name is Betty. After learning each other's truth, they both laugh a lot. A friendship blossoms between them. After this meeting, Roy is shown going to a club where his friend Vincent is already sitting with two men. Vincent is telling them about a business scheme where their money will double. Roy now tells them that he knows a businessman who is investing £800,000 in this scheme, and if all four of them invest £200,000 each, they can match that investment and all their money will double quickly. Those two men are convinced by Roy's words. After this, Roy converts his home into an office where his friend Vincent and the two men who are ready to invest £200,000 each arrive. Then two Russians also arrive, the ones who are supposed to invest £800,000. The Russians ask Roy when they will get their profit. Roy says very soon they will invest all the money in property and within a week they will get their profit. They have a device there through which everyone will transfer their amounts into a single account. Just as a Russian is about to do it, the two investors who are investing £200,000 each ask the Russian how much commission he will give to their president. The Russian does not like this and leaves without transferring the money. Roy tells the two men that they will have to convince him again. On the other side, Roy now goes to meet Betty. They were supposed to go to a restaurant, but it is now closed. Here, Roy is deliberately walking with a stick and tells Betty that sometimes his knees hurt. Betty then shows him her new car, and they both arrive at Betty's house. Betty's house is very luxurious, which Roy observes very carefully. Betty then cooks dinner for Roy, and they both talk and have dinner together. Later that night, Betty's grandson Stephen comes home and is not at all happy to see Roy. After dinner, the two of them drop Roy at his home. Betty asks him which floor he lives on. Roy says the top floor. Betty knows his knees hurt and sees he has a lot of difficulty climbing up. So Betty asks him to come and stay with them at her house. Roy packs his things and comes to Betty's house. The next morning, while drinking coffee, he sees a boy in a car outside who is watching him. But before he can figure out who it is, the boy leaves. After this, Roy tells Stephen that he needs to go out for work and asks if he can drop him at the airport. Stephen drops him at the airport, and as soon as he leaves, Roy changes his clothes and exits from another door of the airport and goes to his house, where he has set up the meeting room. Once again, all the investors who had come the previous time arrive. The Russians are also there, the ones who had left angrily last time. Now the two investors apologize for their previous words, and after that, they transfer their amounts into the joint account. The Russians also transfer their amount. Everyone is very happy. In this happiness, the Russian hugs the man who invested money to double it. That investor feels that this Russian is no investor but a police officer because he feels wires under his clothes. The investor, whose name is Brian, tries to free himself, but the Russian holds him tight. Just then, police sirens are heard. Roy looks down and sees police cars. After this, investor Brian, who along with his partner had transferred the money, tries to run away. They see that Roy has had a heart attack, so both of them flee through the back door. After they flee, the Russian investors are shown becoming completely normal because they are working for Roy. The police were also fake. Roy never had a heart attack. Actually, the whole thing was their trap, through which they got Brian and his partner's money transferred into their own account. This is Roy's job. He is a con artist who changes people's identities and gets their amounts transferred into his account. He has completely looted Brian and his partner. They all celebrate this victory. A few days later, Roy and his partner Vincent go to a butcher shop where the owner is the same Russian who joined their team as an investor. Now he is demanding more money, so Roy calls two of his men who injure his hand badly. This shows how dangerous Roy is. After this, Roy takes his partner Vincent to Betty's house. When Betty comes there, Roy introduces Vincent as his investment planner. He tells her that whatever property and money he has, he wants to put some of it in her name. He is talking about his will. Betty says he shouldn't do that, but should leave everything to his son. Now Vincent starts talking to Betty about investment, and in the process, he gets her to reveal that she has £2 million, which is a very large amount. Vincent then suggests she invest all that money so it will double in 5 years. But for this, both she and Roy will have to put their money into a joint account, which will also save tax. Betty says she needs some time to make such a big decision and does not agree. At night, while taking water from the fridge, Betty senses someone behind her and screams loudly. Roy comes there and sees a broken flower pot outside. He understands someone tried to enter the house, but he doesn't know who. The next morning, Betty, Roy, and Vincent are sitting together when Vincent tells Roy that the money he invested has earned a profit of £20,000. Just then, Betty's grandson Stephen arrives. When he learns about all this, he tells his grandmother Betty that last time when they brought Roy here, he couldn't even walk properly, and now he's completely fine. He doesn't want her to trust anyone or put her money in a joint account. Vincent gets offended by this and leaves. Betty also feels bad, but Roy pacifies both of them. A few days later, Roy tells Betty that he got a profit of £20,000 and thinks he will give £10,000 to Stephen, and with the remaining £10,000 they can go on a trip. Betty likes his idea is good. Betty says they will go to Berlin. Although initially he didn't want to go to Berlin, he later agrees. While Roy is roaming with Betty, he sees that Brian, the investor whose money he and Vincent had transferred into their account, is following him. He tells Betty to stay there and goes into an underground metro station where Brian is following him. When all the passengers board the metro train, Brian approaches him and demands his money back, saying he was fooled. Roy says he doesn't have his money. Just then, Roy sees a metro train coming from behind and pushes Brian in front of it and escapes, returning to Betty once again. After this, they both reach Berlin. Stephen also arrives there. Roy is surprised to see Stephen. Betty says Stephen knows the place well and can help them explore Berlin. Stephen takes them to a hotel in a very old building. Seeing the building, Roy becomes nervous. It seems like he already knows this place. Stephen takes them to a flat and tells them that Roy has been here before. He says he checked Roy's service records which mention that he visited this flat. Now Roy tells them that, as he had mentioned, he used to work in the British Army. 3 years after World War II ended, he came here. He didn't know Russian, so he hired a Russian soldier named Hans, who used to work for the Russian army. Hans started working for him, and one day they got information that a Nazi soldier was hiding here. They came to catch him, but he found out and attacked them. A scuffle ensued, in which Hans was shot and died. After that, Roy left. Stephen says that is not what happened. The man they came to catch was caught later and gave a statement that the man who died was the British soldier, meaning Roy and Hans survived. Now Roy reveals the whole truth. He says it is true. That day the British soldier died and he survived. That soldier's face was completely destroyed, so he decided to take his identity. That day he went from being Hans to Roy. His English was very good, so no one suspected him. He came to London and started living as an Englishman. Stephen says he is a German and must have committed countless crimes, so they cannot trust him. Roy says he has committed no crime in the last 50 years. Whatever happened during World War II was done by both countries, and it was not his fault. After hearing all this, Betty tells her grandson to be quiet and leave. Stephen tries to convince his grandmother not to trust him, but Betty does not listen and asks him to leave. Roy is very upset. Betty tells him he doesn't need to be sad. She trusts him completely. Whenever she is with him, she feels happy and not lonely. She says they should go back to London, and there he can call Vincent. She has decided that they will transfer all their money into a joint account as Vincent suggested. After this, they all return to London. Vincent comes to their house and gets their signatures on the joint account papers. He also gives them keypads with which they will transfer their money. First, Roy transfers all his money, and then Betty does the same. They both keep the keypad password as Lily's. Without this password and keypad, they cannot transfer the money. Just then, Roy gets a call which he doesn't answer. Betty asks who called. He says it was his son, who is in London and wants to meet him, but he doesn't want to meet. Betty forces him to meet his son. Roy agrees and packs his bag. He puts his clothes in the bag and also keeps the keypad inside. He tells Betty he might have to stay the night there. Betty tells him to take water, and he goes to the kitchen. Then they both go to the railway station where Betty sees him off, and Roy leaves. At night, Roy sits in his hotel room. He has actually stolen all of Betty's money. He takes out the keypad from his bag to transfer all the money to another account. But when he opens the bag, the keypad is not there. He panics completely and calls the bank, saying he wants to transfer his funds to another account. But the bank customer care tells him he cannot do it without the keypad. If he has lost it, they can courier a new one, but it will take a few days. Roy now realizes he must go back to Betty's house at any cost to get his keypad. He reaches Betty's house at night. When he enters, he sees the house is completely empty. There is no furniture. Betty is sitting on a chair in front, and the keypad is in her hand. Roy tells her he missed his flight and came back. Then Betty presses a button on the keypad. Roy asks what she is doing. Betty tells him she is logged into the joint account, and with every lie he tells, she will transfer £50,000 to her personal account. He tells many lies to convince her he is a truthful man. But with each lie, Betty presses the button, and £50,000 get transferred to her personal account. Now Roy gives up. He admits that he doesn't have a son. After surrendering completely, Roy asks her who she is. Betty tells him to look at the painting on the wall, which is of a lily flower. When he repeatedly looks at the lily, the name Lily comes to his mind. He remembers that in 1943, during World War II, when he was in Berlin, he used to go to teach English to the daughter of a very big businessman. There, Lily fell in love with him. Once, when he was waiting for Lily at her home, he heard music and went inside, where Lily's 3 sisters were practicing dance. One of them asked Hans, Roy's real name, to dance with her. While dancing, Hans misbehaved with her, so she pushed him and asked him to leave. He then went to the room where Lily was. To take revenge for the insult by Lily's sisters, Hans forced himself on Lily. But Lily didn't tell her mother. When Hans went downstairs, he saw Lily's 3 sisters standing with their father. They had told their father everything about Hans. Lily's father then insulted Hans and threw him out of the house. To take revenge, Hans defamed them, saying they were colluding with British soldiers and were traitors. Because of this, Lily's father was given the death sentence by hanging. In the present time, Roy/Hans, who is in front of Betty, realizes that Betty is actually Lily. Lily tells him that after her father's death, her mother took her own life. A few years later, when World War II was ending, her 3 sisters were killed in a blast, but she survived. Now Roy has confessed his entire crime, and Betty has recorded everything. She says she has the complete proof of his crime. Betty tells him that her grandson Stephen is a very good researcher, who researched and found out his entire crime history. In childhood, she had a locket of his. She went to her old house to get that locket, which had his hair. She used that hair to do a DNA test, which proved he is Hans, and now they can prove it to the law. She tells him that Vincent has also joined them, because Stephen had earlier convinced him that if he didn't help, he would also go to jail. Betty also tells him that Stephen is not her grandson. Her real grandson is the boy he had seen several times in the car outside the house. The one he was confused was following him. Stephen and her grandson are friends. Both of them helped her a lot. Now she gives him the keypad, which still has £100,000 in it, and starts to leave. Seeing this, Roy becomes completely furious. He attacks her, but then Betty calls someone, and the next moment 2 men enter. One of them is the man who pretended to be a Russian and worked for Roy, and the other is one of the 2 investors whose money Roy had transferred into his account, the partner of the one he killed. Before leaving, Betty tells the investor that the keypad contains as much money as Roy owed him, and he can take it back if he wants. Saying this, she leaves. As she walks away from the house, she hears Roy/Hans screaming, as the investor beats him badly. After this, we are shown Roy in a hospital, his whole body paralyzed. His partner Vincent comes to visit him there. Roy is very angry seeing him, but he can do nothing. The story ends by showing Lily, or Betty, very happy with her family. And so, the one who always deceived others only received deception from his own people in the end. Thus, evil met a terrible end.